Assalamu alaikum everyone. Can we please have a seat? We're about to start reciting the Quran.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم عما يتساءلون عن النبأ العظيم الذي هم فيه مختلفون كلا سيعلمون ثم كلا سيعلمون ألم نجعل الأرض مهادا والجبال أوتادا وخلقناكم أزواجا وجعلنا نومكم سباتا وجعلنا الليل لباسا وجعلنا النهار معاشا وبنينا فوقكم سبعا شدادا وجعلنا سراجا وهاجا وأنزلنا من المعصرات ماء ثجاجا لنخرج به حبا ونباتا وجنات ألفافا إن يوم الفصل كان ميقاتا يوم ينفخ في السور فتأتون أفواجا وفتحت السماء فكانت أبوابا وسيرت الجبال فكانت سرابا إن جهنم كانت مرصادا للطاغين مآبا لابثين فيها أحقابا لا يذوقون فيها بردا ولا شرابا إلا حميما وغساقا جزاء وفاقا إنهم كانوا لا يرجون حسابا وكذبوا بآياتنا كذابا وكل شيء أحصيناه كتابا فذوقوا فلن نزيدكم إلا عذابا إن للمتقين مفازا حدائق وعنابا وكواعب أترابا وكأسا دهاقا لا يسمعون فيها لغوا ولا كذابا جزاء من ربك عطاء حسابا رب السماوات والأرض وما بينهما الرحمن لا يملكون منه خطابا يوم يقوم الروح والملائكة صفا لا يتكلمون إلا من أذن له الرحمن وقال صوابا ذلك اليوم الحق فمن شاء اتخذ إلى ربه مآبا إنا أنذرناكم عذابا قريبا يوم ينظر المرء ما قدمت يدعه ويقول الكافر يا ليتني كنت ترابا.
Assalamu alaikum everybody. Just want to take this time to thank each and every one of you for making the effort to join us today in our event for Ojalá Foundation. This is the first event that we're having here at the Mecca Center, and this recitation was by Ferris, so thank you so much. A beautiful recitation. May Allah continue to reward you and bless you as you continue to learn the Quran. Just a little bit about Ojalá Foundation. This has been an effort that has been ongoing for the last, I would say, 2 decades. The Chicagoland area is filled with a lot of Latino community that has been accepting Islam. And we have joined efforts with Latino Muslims of Chicago and Ojalá Foundation to provide to our community a dire need of building the relationships within the Latino community and bringing Islam to impoverished neighborhoods. Today, inshallah, we will be having Shaykh Omar Hernandez, who is born of Guatemalan descent, and he is the first Latin American from the United States to graduate from the Islamic University of Medina. Shaykh Hernandez is co-founder of the Religious Studies Department and the Arabic lead at the Institute of Quran Memorization in Richardson, Texas. Shaykh Omar leads and volunteers in the diverse Dallas community through a variety of educational, social, recreational, and pastoral services. Ustadhah Hernandez is dedicated to promoting a wholesome Islamic lifestyle through education and service. He lives in Garland, Texas with his wife of over 20 years, mashallah, and their 5 children. Along with Shaykh Omar, we have his daughter Karimah joining us as well. Sister Karimah Hernandez is a master's student at Southern Methodist University. She holds a Bachelor's of Arts in Islamic Studies. Karimah is a co-founder and director of Keys to Islamic Sciences, which is an online program. At the age of 16, she became the first Latin American from the United States to memorize the Quran, and she is also fluent in Arabic, Spanish, and English. So please welcome me in joining both Sheikh Omar and Sister Karimah to the stage.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, do I need this? Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I want to, as the sister mentioned, thank all of you for coming out. And for me, this is a bit overwhelming and very emotional for me because this community here in Chicago is a very important part of everything that the sister just mentioned. And this community here in Chicago has always welcomed us and extended out a loving hand to myself and to my daughter, and also to my mother who passed away. May Allah have mercy on her. Amen. So it's very dear to me to be with you all. It's very special. And I thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for honoring me in this way. We're going to talk a little bit about our journey through these different stages, how we learned about Islam, or some points about how we came across Islam and how we found Islam and were guided to Islam by Allah's permission. And then a little bit about learning, our path to learning. I started from Aleph, Ba. There was a long period in my life where, it was difficult to learn how to pray. It's a new language, Arabic, and here I am, young and whatever the case may be. So it was a challenge, right? Taking those steps and learning how to perform the different rituals and getting a grasp of Islam in totality. And it still is a struggle. It's still a struggle. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then, inshallah, we'll finish up talking about teaching and educating others within Islam. And inshallah, Karimah will go first, and then I'll go.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah, wa ala alihi wa ashabihi wa man tamassaka bi sunnatihi ila yawmiddin. Just to reiterate a little bit of what Sister Sylvia mentioned, as some of you know, my name is Karimah Hernandez. I'm 23 years old and currently residing in Dallas, Texas. In 2010, I completed my hifz of the Quran and became the first Latina from the United States to do so. I have my bachelor's degree in Islamic Studies, and I'm currently at the Southern Methodist University getting my master's degree in liberal arts with a focus on organizational leadership and dynamics. Alhamdulillah, throughout.
Is it better?
Is it better? Can you hear me, Sister Ruth?
No, maybe a little louder. Well, you can hold if you want to. It's up to you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Raise your voice too. Raise your voice.
Alhamdulillah, throughout my journey, I've been teaching Quran for about 4 years in the Dallas, Texas area, different organizations and different communities. And doing that along with my educational journey, both Islamically and academically, there's a couple of, I've been able to analyze and discuss the Quran and find out what works best when trying to familiarize yourself with the Book of Allah. Not only memorizing it, but just trying to implement it more in your daily life. When it comes to trying to build a relationship with the Quran, I think for me, community was very important, like my father mentioned earlier. Having that sense of people that hold you accountable, that will help you to reach the goals that you're trying to reach, is always going to help you when it comes to any religious goals you do have. So for me, I was able to attend the Sisters Halaqah last night over in Sister Shirley's house. And that group of sisters, that feeling of community, of belonging, and all of them getting together for the sake of trying to become better Muslims, for me, that was very important. When it came to my personal journey to memorize Quran, it wasn't just me. It was a combination of my grandmother's efforts, my parents, my aunts, my uncles, my cousins, and my teachers, and everyone else. The whole community in general had a lot to do with my Quranic journey. And then another thing that was important for me when it came to memorizing Quran was personal accountability. At some point, I had to want to memorize. I had to want to grow more Islamically and religiously. So for me, personal accountability was a major factor because one of the hadiths that the Prophet said is al-ilmu faridatun ala kulli muslimin wa muslima. At the end of the day, the acquiring of knowledge is an obligation towards any Muslim man or female. And then another thing is, like my father mentioned earlier, that struggle of trying to memorize, of trying to learn Arabic, starting with Alif, Ba, Ta, and then eventually memorizing the entire Quran. It's a personal struggle, but then you have to keep in mind that you're putting in all this effort, all of this time, commitment, and dedication to achieve a higher goal. And when it comes to the Quran, there's so many blessings that come with struggling to memorize, struggling with trying, your hardest to, even if it's just memorizing one ayah and memorizing just Surah Al-Fatiha, you have to keep in mind that there was a hadith of Ibn Mas'ud where he said that Alif Lam Mim isn't one word. You get 10 hasanats for every single letter that you recite. So imagine you're putting in time, effort, commitment into trying to memorize. You're getting all these blessings and all these rewards just for trying to, put together Allah's book and giving it your best effort. And so, you're putting it together slowly but surely, and then, alhamdulillah, you have, there's so many rewards that you get at the end of, trying to memorize, trying to grow Islamically and religiously. And yeah, that was all.
Brothers and sisters, I'll start from, I've conveyed, and many of you in here have heard of our journey. As I mentioned, many of you in here were part of it in some shape, form, or fashion. Um, so, you know, all of us, everyone in here has a story. A story that so I was mentioning, brothers and sisters, all of you, all of us, everyone in here has a story that inspires us, that reminds us of our journey with or to or back to Allah. And our individual journeys, brothers and sisters, they're very important, not only from a perspective of good manners or respect, or it's actually a part of our belief. It's a part of our belief that we understand each other's story and that we respect each other's story, probably more importantly, that we respect one another's story. It's part of our belief system. The Prophet ﷺ, عن أبي هريرة رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم والذي نفسي بيده لا تدخلون الجنة حتى تحابوا ولا حتى تؤمنوا ولا تؤمنوا حتى تحابوا أولا أدلكم على شيء إذا فعلتموه تحاببتم أفشوا السلام بينكم رواه مسلم. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, he swore by the one in whose hand is his soul. He said, you will not enter paradise until you have believed. You cannot enter paradise without the prerequisites of having what is known in Islam as iman, as having faith, right? And that faith is very clearly defined. We all have a natural inclination, what we call in Arabic a fitrah, right? To acknowledge and to recognize Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to recognize a higher power, a creator. At the same time, God has given us a message. He has revealed to us a message, and we have to seek that message and obtain that message and hopefully implement it. So the Prophet ﷺ is telling us that you will not enter Jannah, لا تدخلون الجنة حتى تؤمنوا, until you believe. And what did he connect that belief to and that paradise to? He said, وَلَا تُؤْمِنُوا حَتَّى تَحَابُّوا. And he said, you will not believe until you love one another. You will not believe until you love one another. He didn't say you will not believe until you pray, until you do such and such, until you make hajj, until you... He said you will not believe until you love one another. And then he said, shall I not show you something? Should I not teach you something that will cause you, that if you do it, it will cause you to love one another? Right? And of course, the people around him, they were eager. Okay, what is he going to say? Right? What is he going to teach us right now at this moment that's going to allow us to qualify for paradise, to qualify for faith? What is he going to say to us? Right? In this particular moment right now, he said, Afshu salama bainakum. He said to spread the salams between each other. Give each other salams. And this was recorded by Imam Muslim. So brothers and sisters, as I mentioned, our journeys, our relationships must be respected. and as I said, it's not just good manners or good etiquette, right? Because all of us, have culture, different manners, and maybe some things that are part of my culture might not be a part of your culture. Certain things that I think are good manners, you might not think are good manners. There's some universal things, of course, right? But there might be some particulars where we don't see things eye to eye. And I experienced this overseas, right? Amongst the Muslims, certain things that I felt were good manners, good behavior, good etiquette, they didn't see it that way, right? And vice versa. So, as I mentioned, we need to have this love and this concern for one another. So, I'm sure all of you have amazing stories that have led you to this point. Um, so, with that in mind, I'll just mention a few points from my story that I think are beneficial in terms of paying attention to ourselves and how we carry Islam and how we communicate Islam and what we portray to be Islam. And sometimes some of us don't realize our story, right? Like my daughter, she's young, and for her, this is no, right? I'm a Hafiz. I know Arabic. She's been doing this since she's a little baby, right? So the whole struggle of learning Aleph, Ba, some of these things, yes, she was little, right? And she put the effort in, of course, without question, right? But it's different, right, when you don't have that guidance, when you don't have that, that mentor, right, pointing out to you which direction to take. It can be quite challenging. Uh, so one thing, personally, myself, I also embraced Islam when I was a junior in high school. So I was about 16 years old. So young people, right? We have to pay attention to the young people. It's very important, especially us older veteran Muslims. We have to pay attention to them because of a few things, right? They have the eagerness, they have the drive, they have the energy, uh, and even scientifically, their brains, right, are a little different. Um, they're brave, right? And the younger we start them out, the more that they will gain throughout their lives in terms of experience, right? The more you do something, the more you practice it, the more you're familiar with it, the more, inshallah ta'ala, that you will grow within that thing. Um, as they say, right, practice makes perfect. And also, young people uh, are able to kind of let things go, right? They don't keep things inside their chest like us older people do. And even brothers and sisters, scientifically, again, as I mentioned, I came across a few articles that highlight some of the particular things connected to young people. And I'll just read straight from those articles. A partially connected frontal lobe, right? Nature made the brains of children and adolescents excitable. Their brain chemistry is tuned to be responsive to everything in their environment. Kids and teens who are raised, and this is from a different article, and this has to do with religion in particular. And this article, I just came across it this morning when I was putting some final touches on what I wanted to present. And this particular article was talking about how important it is for young people to have some religion or spirituality. And it said that kids and teens who are raised with religious or spiritual practices tend to have better health and mental health as they age. It also says kids and teens who are raised with religious or spiritual practices tend to have better. It turned out that those who attended religious services at least once a week as children or teens were 18% more likely to report being happier in their 20s than those who never attended services. right, brothers and sisters? So us and the type of religion, alhamdulillah, we're all Muslims, right? But we have to ask ourselves the quality of our Islam and what type of Islam we're presenting, especially to our younger brothers and sisters. It also says that they were also almost 30% more likely to do volunteer work and 33% less likely to use drugs in their 20s as well. The article further said that often they are happier and that people who believe in something greater than themselves are more resilient to stress. Other work has shown that in meditation and in prayer, the me centers, right? And this is a very big thing with our young people nowadays, even us older people, right? With the social media and the different means of communication, there's always that me, that ego, how I look in public, my image. That's a very, very big issue in these days, especially with our younger people. Those that are active when you're thinking self-referential, worry-based thoughts. Quiet down and areas involved in perceiving the external world as other also deactivate, right? So they're able to look at the big picture. If they are presented to a religion or some type of spirituality. So, we should pay attention to our young people. Don't underestimate kind treatment towards younger people. And it doesn't have to be that complicated, right? Simple, just greeting them, giving salam sometimes, right? We see a crowd of brothers and we give all the men salams and we don't give the little brother a salam. We see a group of sisters, we give all the sisters salams and we don't give salams to the younger sisters, right? So we have to do some basic things, right? Again, the type of Islam that we're practicing, right? All of us, if I come and I start giving a talk about Hajj and how beautiful Hajj and Hajj and Hajj, we can all get excited and want to make Hajj and dream about making Hajj, right? But it's those day in, every single day, every moment, right? How your relationship, how you're portraying, how you're attached to Islam. That's where the challenge is, right? To be a Muslim at work, to be a Muslim at school, to be a Muslim with someone who is not, concerned about you and what you're about, right? Having those Islamic interactions on a moment-to-moment basis. So that's we should definitely pay attention to the younger people, and we have to consider something. There were also the Prophet ﷺ himself. He didn't become a prophet until what age? 40. He was 40 years old, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he became a prophet. Right? So if you're 40 or older, and the rest of it, that's the years that he spent establishing his mission, from 40 up until about 63. Right? So he was an elderly man. He wasn't young himself, sallallahu in terms of age and the way that we look at it. So he was an elderly person, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and many of they kind of went through the same struggle, right? He would teach the newer Muslims that, and we have to consider that as well, right? All of these Sahaba, they were also reverts, right? So it was new to them as well. Islam was new to them, and they had to learn. They had to learn surahs. They had to embrace the beliefs. They had to make some adjustments, and in many cases, it caused them a lot, right? It caused them their wealth. It caused them their family ties. It caused them a lot of difficulties. Radiallahu anhum ajma'in. So if you're older, it doesn't mean that no, you have the ability as well to do the best that you can and to influence those around you as an older, mature Muslim, inshallah ta'ala. So that's one point from my personal journey in finding Islam. I was a young man looking, searching, trying to find something. And to be quite honest with you, in those days, most older people wouldn't pay no attention to me. They had no time for me and for foolishness, right? They didn't have any time. Nobody wanted to deal with that, right? So subhanallah. And then, to come here and be honored by you all is subhanallah. Number two is that there was some limited resources. Number one, limited male adult supervision, and limited, resources as well. So this was, I think, helpful in my particular journey because, I didn't have those ties, right? Yesterday I was talking we were having a class, and one of the companions who became Muslim when Prophet Muhammad SAW actually conquered Mecca, right? So that was it as far as the Quraysh and the disbelief in Mecca. It was over. It came to an end, right? When the Prophet ﷺ conquered Mecca. This Sahabi, he became Muslim on that same day that the Prophet ﷺ conquered. Many of the Sahabas became Muslim on that same day, right? So one of the companions asked this particular companion, he said, like, why did you wait so long? Why did you wait so long? He told them, because my father used to tell me such and such and such and such and such and such. So he used to discourage me from following Muhammad. He wanted to follow him. He was eager to follow him, but his father had prevented him from doing so. Right? So sometimes I'm not at all suggesting that, children should be raised without a father in any way, shape, form, or fashion. But even the Prophet ﷺ himself, he was yatim. He was an orphan, right? And not just that he was an orphan from the father's side, because in Islam, the orphan is the one alladhi mata or faqada abahu, the one who lost his father, right? That's the orphan in Islam, right? So the Prophet ﷺ was not just orphaned through his mother, but through his father, but he was also an orphan through his mother. He didn't have his mother as well. Right? And as we mentioned, alhamdulillah, with my daughter in particular and myself, my mother was such an important part of this whole journey. But he didn't have, and on top of that, the Prophet ﷺ, he didn't have any siblings. He didn't have any siblings to go through the difficulties that he went through. Me personally, alhamdulillah, something's bothering me, I call my big brother. We talk about it, right? The Prophet ﷺ, he had none of that. Right, so sometimes those ethnic, those tribal ties, they can hold us back in a sense, right? How many times, sometimes we especially as reverts, it disturbs us a bit, right? When we see our other brothers and sisters from other parts of the world who, as I mentioned, might not return salams, right? Might not welcome us, right? This is very disheartening for us sometimes. So, brothers and sisters, that was one aspect that I think was a part, definitely a part, and very it was influential in me embracing Islam. Right, I didn't have those. Right, I was open. My mind, I was what I see my sons and I see my nephews. They walk and talk like their father. Right, subhanallah. So with that also, brothers and sisters, we have to look at the humility of the Prophet ﷺ and his companions, their lifestyle, right? The Prophet ﷺ himself, right? He didn't have much, right? Many of us today, if we were to come into contact with him, if we were to see his home was probably, right, the size of where those chairs are. That was the size of his house, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And it wasn't even his house. Whose house was it that he passed away in? It was Aisha. It was his wife's. It was his wife's house. Technically speaking, the Prophet, he didn't have a home, right? He lived with his wife, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he didn't have any. When he passed away, they say he left behind what do you call a spear and a shield and a camel. That's all he left behind. sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we know that his wife, there were times that she said 3 moons would pass. 3 moons would pass, and all they would eat was al aswadan, right? The water and dates. There was no fire in the house. They didn't cook a meal. They didn't warm up any water, right? Um, and look at the odds in many cases when the Sahaba, right, against those that were in opposition to them, right? The Sahaba were small in number, small in resources, right? But they were victorious. They were victorious, right? So it wasn't always about having this or having that, right? No, it was about what they had and making the most of it, right? And utilizing those things that they had. Uh, as they say, brothers and sisters, often the enemy of the best is the good, right? So a lot of times, we accomplish certain things and we become comfortable, right? We're good. I'm good, right? So we have to be mindful of that. We have to be mindful of that. And I'm not at all. There were some Sahaba who were multi-billionaires, right? They were multi-billionaires. So in no way, shape, form, or fashion, I'm just making a point that was my personal. And also, there were many, many Sahaba who faced similar things. Another point I think that was very influential in us embracing Islam was that it was a family issue. Islam was a family issue. My mother, may Allah have mercy on her, she made sure that we ate dinner together. Every night we ate dinner together. Alhamdulillah. And until this day, I try to make sure that we eat dinner together. And just to be with each other, to connect, right? To just see, to talk to each other, right? What's happening? And we discuss whatever, you saw this, you heard that, whatever we're talking, we're discussing, right? So it was a family issue in our home, right? Islam came, my mother was talking about it, my brother was talking about it, I was talking about it. We were all discussing this new idea of Islam. And also, right, some things that we would do also before Islam was that we always had weekend breakfasts together. Saturday, Sunday, we ate together as a family before Islam. So subhanAllah, within Islam, we're encouraged, right? As the Prophet said, what's enough for one person in terms of food, what did he say? What's enough for one is enough for two. What's enough for two is enough for four, right? And on and on and on. So this encouragement, right? At these moments that we're looking forward to our food, we want to eat, we're hungry, right? That we take a moment. Let me invite someone. Let me invite my brother. Let me invite my sister. So that was another point that I think was very beneficial in us embracing Islam. As far as learning Islam, for me personally, I don't mean to take anything away from our shuyukh, our imams, our da'is, our teachers, our asatida, right? But they weren't the ones that introduced me to Islam. No, it wasn't them. It just wasn't. I didn't go out my house and see the Shaykh, anywhere, nowhere to be found, right? No imam, there was none of that. So it was many of the urban artists who were promoting a certain brand of Islam that Allah knows best to its correctness and soundness. But what else did we have? Right? There was nothing of. We were thirsty. Some of us were hungry. Right? We wanted. Where can we learn? Who's teaching? Right? So that's why something like Ohala and these type of organizations where you're going out and trying to find the people, as the sister mentioned, the impoverished people, the people that don't know where to go. My daughter, she knows where to go. She knows what to do. I send her out on a mission. She can handle it. She knows what to do. She knows who to contact, right? But what about those that they just don't? They don't know what to do. They don't know where to turn. What about them? Who's reaching out to them? And if we look early on in the dawah with the Prophet, those were the ones that were embracing Islam as well. Those impoverished, those people that were left right to the side. They were also, he would connect with them. This is a soul. This is a human. Okay, they're poor. You want them to go to hell? No, right? We want them to go to Jannah. And we might be that link. They see you. Oh, the other day I met a young man. He was eager, like he didn't even know me. What do you have? You got something, right? So subhanallah, this is something that we again, right? We maybe we're not shuyukh, we're not scholars, but right, we can point them. Come, go this way, go that way, do this, do that, right? So all of us can play a role in that. So when I reverted, also it was these regular musallin, as Brother Abdul Kareem was mentioning yesterday. It was these, regular brother. Not that he's, any of you are regular. I don't mean it in that sense, right? But you're not on the podium, right? You're not doing the khutbahs, or maybe you are. Maybe you do these things as well, right? So what my point is that, right, the community aspect of it is very important, right? It was a brother, come here, Omar. Let's learn, Ayatul Kursi. No, I'm a teacher, okay, and he'll help me, he'll work with me, right? And then, so all of us, right? All of us can play that role. And of course, I had the examples of my imams. I had the examples of my teachers. So it's very important for us as new Muslims, or even as veteran Muslims, to have an imam, to have a shaykh. Not that we worship them, not that we give them more than they deserve, but that we learn. We take certain things from them, and maybe your shaykh, all he can teach you is salat. Alhamdulillah, you get the salah from him, find another shaykh that can teach you something else. If we're talking about dunya, right, my daughter, mashallah, masters, right, that's not enough. We're already talking PhD. Myself, 8 years in Medina, not enough. I need a master's. I need a PhD. I need certificate. I need all these titles, right? We have to apply that to Islam as well. Are we searching? Are we looking, right? Or are we just kind of sitting back waiting, right? As one brother, waiting for the Savior. This is not Islam, right? As my daughter mentioned, Talibul ilm farida. Prophet Muhammad, it's obligatory upon every single Muslim to seek knowledge, right? So we should try to have a shaykh that can help us with Quran, right? That can help us with learning the things that we need to know about our deen. Right? And we in our time, we used to have to buy, we used to have to search, we had to buy tapes, right? That extra $5 I had, I bought a CD with it, right? I had collections. Some of us, look, Brother Abdul Kareem Smiley, he probably still got all his tapes. How many tapes you guys? Couple hundred tapes. MashaAllah, couple hundred. And me and my imam used to argue how many tapes. He said he had more than me, but I don't know. I had a few, mashallah. Just like I did in Jahiliyyah. How many CDs did you have in Jahiliyyah? How much money did you spend in Jahiliyyah on CDs, on records, on music, on all of these things? Right? But when it comes to Islam, right, there's no effort. Right? There's no effort. So we have to be mindful of this. We have to search, right? We have to look, we have to find a teacher that can help us and encourage us learn this deen. 10 minutes. And more important, my shaykh, one of my sheikhs, he didn't even know Arabic. He didn't even know English. He didn't know English, right? But I said, whatever that man knows, I need to know that. Whatever he knows, I need to know what he knows. Because look how we act. SubhanAllah, right? So we need brothers and sisters to find people that can and again, it doesn't always have to be a sheikh. It can be a brother that has learned this salat, that has learned how to fast, and he can teach you. Yes, he can teach you how to pray. We have to humble ourselves. Maybe they're younger than you. Maybe it's a 15-year-old, right? Maybe, right? We have to humble ourselves, just like we do when it comes to the dunya things, right? And then also with learning Islam, eventually I moved on to Medina. And that became a whole different challenge, right? When I got to Medina, I was already a sheikh. When I got to Medina, I was already a sheikh. I thought, anyway, right? I memorized like 20 surahs. I knew some Arabic. I had my thobe, my beard, my pants were above the ankles. I know that already. Right? But then you start to see the different understandings, the different struggles, the different paths that people took and everything that they gave to learn this deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the different sciences, right? You have, if we kind of think about it, the Quran is the root of all of these modern sciences, right? It was those Sahaba, their efforts to organize and structure the Quran and the teachings of Prophet Muhammad that led to the other Islamic sciences and eventually led to them making the other worldly sciences available to the whole world, right? So, subhanAllah. Right, different madhabs. What do you do? Different madhabs, right? You have Shia, you have Sufi, you have Salafi, you have, right? So navigating through all these things can be quite challenging. Even up until this moment, right? Finding time to study. I have a family, I have work, I have different things, on my plate. So it's always, some of the scholars used to say, min al-mahdi ila al-maqbari. One of them was on his deathbed, one of the ulama, on his deathbed, he was dying. And then some people, he heard they were studying some hadith. So he told them, hey man, bring them over, bring them to my house. So and they were like, Shaykh, you're in your deathbed. He said, from the cradle to the grave. And he made them come to his house and have the lesson in his house so he can benefit from it. As a matter of fact, they say he took out his writing utensils and he started recording. Right? So subhanAllah, when we see our elder brothers and sisters still hungry, still eager. Yesterday, me and Abdul Karim was talking about one of our sheikhs, an old soldier, right? Hanging in there, still going through it, still learning, right? We can never in Islam get to a point and say, I'm good, I know everything, right? That, a'udhu billah. And the last point is, I have about 5 minutes, brothers and sisters, is actually teaching Islam. And this has a dual dimension. The first dimension is that we simply convey the knowledge. We just convey the knowledge, right? And then the other dimension is the responsibility of utilizing that knowledge, right? So it's like, we're in football season right now. Maybe some of us are protesting, right? But it's football season nonetheless. Offense, right? Sometimes you're on offense, you're on the attack. Sometimes you're on defense, right? And what do they say about defense? Defense wins championship. Defense wins championships. That's how I was taught in football, that defense wins championships, right? So sometimes we're on offense, sometimes we're on defense. And that's very important, brothers and sisters, in our concern and our love for wanting to spread Islam. We have to be mindful not to forget ourselves, not to forget to invest in ourselves, to make sure that we're making our 5 daily prayers, we're making our dhikr, and we're doing extra things that will help us to grow within Islam. That's very important. So the first one, in terms of just conveying the message, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, "Ballighu anni walau ayah." He said, convey from me, even if you know one verse. You know Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen? You know Alhamdulillah. Subhanallah. Convey that, teach that to somebody. Just, if you say Subhanallah, that means glory be to Allah, that makes Allah happy. You're glorifying Him. You're taking a moment to remember Him and mention Him. And what's the reward for that? What's the reward for that? كلمتان خفيفتان على اللسان ثقيلتان على الميزان. Two words that are very light upon the tongue, easy to say subhanallah, alhamdulillah, but they're very heavy on the scale when we stand before Allah. Right? So alhamdulillah, we can convey that to somebody. You know, man, sometimes when things happen to me, brother, things happen to me, sister, I say alhamdulillah. You know what that means? That means praise be to Allah. I praise God, right? Because what else am I going to do? And then hopefully he'll help me to find a solution to what I'm going through. And then he also said in Tirmidhi, Zayd ibn Thabit, سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, he said, نضر الله امرئ سمع منا حديثا فحفظه حتى يبلغه غيره فرب حامل الفقه إلى من هو أفقه منه ورب حامل الفقه ليس بفقيه. He said that may Allah illuminate the face of one who hears my statement. Right? So we're hearing, we're out, we're looking, we're searching, we want to hear. We hear the Prophet's statement and we yahfaduhu, they protect it, they preserve it. The Sahaba used to travel, the ulama of hadith, they used to travel thousands of miles to learn one statement of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I have all of Prophet Muhammad's statements in my phone, in my pocket. I don't have to travel anywhere. It's all here, right? They would go thousands of miles, 4 months. There was one Imam Ahmed. They wanted to go see this man in Yemen, right? Imam Ahmed was from Iraq. So they wanted to go to meet this hadith scholar who was in Yemen. But on the way to Yemen, there is Mecca, right? So they stopped in Mecca. And guess who they saw? They saw this man that they wanted to meet in Mecca, in Yemen. So it was Imam Ahmed and one of his companions, and I forget his name. So he says to him, his companion says to Imam Ahmed, look, he's here. Yo, we don't have to go to Yemen. We good. We're gonna learn this here, make this umrah. We can head back. Imam Ahmed said, no, it's my intention that I meet him in Yemen and I take his hadith in Yemen. So he didn't study with him in Mecca. He continued to go to Yemen and wait for him in Yemen. SubhanAllah. So may Allah illuminate the face, one hadith, of whoever learns one hadith from me, and then they convey that hadith. They teach it. Why? So you can, oh yeah, I know this hadith. Look, I got some hadith for you, sister. I know some, I read this hadith. No, he said, because perhaps that the person that learned this hadith, he will teach it to someone who is more learned than him. I know this hadith, but maybe I'm limited in my intelligence, in my resources, right? But if I teach him, right? If I teach her, she has a circle, she has resources, she has reach, right? So subhanAllah, she's going to teach all of these people, right? And maybe she has an understanding that she'll be able to utilize that knowledge more than me. So it's not about me. It's about what? The hadith, right? The hadith. Or perhaps, right, the person doesn't have an understanding at all. But maybe he can learn, right? He can learn. I remember what he said. But he doesn't know how to process that, right? So convey, even one. He said one hadith. He didn't say 20. He didn't say 40. He did one. Sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And the second aspect, and I'll stop with this, and I'll skip the Arabic because of the time, is that responsibility that we have for utilizing your knowledge. Abdullah ibn Omar radiallahu anhu, he said that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he said, every one of you, kullukum ra'in, every one of you is a shepherd and is responsible for his flock. The leader of the people is a guardian and is responsible for his subjects. So those of us who are in leadership, right, you're responsible for your subjects. A man is the guardian of his family and he is responsible for them. A woman is the guardian of her husband's home and his children and she is responsible for them. The slave of a man is a guardian of his property, of the property of his master, and he is responsible for it. No doubt, no doubt, every one of you is a shepherd and is responsible for his flock. So, brothers and sisters, we have a responsibility concerning this knowledge. And that responsibility, the Prophet ﷺ, he taught us, right, to prioritize. Put first things, like they say, first things first, right? We put the first things first. You're a leader, you have to look after your flock. You have to take care. There might be, you have to put your needs to the side. Your wife wants you home, she's on your back because you're not there. And I have a flock, I have a leader, I have to look after these people. It's tough, right? You're a man. That's you have to provide. That's what you do. What else you doing? You're a man, you're the man of the house. What's the problem? What are you doing? That's what you're supposed to be doing. Providing, looking after them. You have to work 15, 20 hours. Brothers, you have to do what you have to do to provide and take care of your family. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us to take care of our families with sustenance that's halal. I mean, the sisters, you're married, you have this responsibility to look after your husband's home and to look after his children. You have to be responsible. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to do things that you can't do. And as brothers, we have to be mindful of that. You knew the sister when you married her. You knew she didn't know this and she didn't know that. And now you want her to teach the children? SubhanAllah. This is oppressive. This is oppressive, right? So it's not that the sister has to do things that she's not capable of doing, but she has to be responsible. Look, that boy needs to learn Quran. You have to find him a teacher. My daughter, she needs to know this. You have to, right? Be responsible. Maybe you can help take her to the teacher, bring her back, right? And you have to be responsible for the home. And the servant, alhamdulillah, we're not in those positions. And then finally, he said, no doubt about it, all of you are a shepherd and all of you are responsible for your flock. So we have these dual relationship with knowledge. If we know something, we should try our best to convey it to anyone, right? Anyone that we can talk to and convey the message to them, right? Alhamdulillah, we share what we can share, right? Whatever we can, and all of you can share something with your loved ones, with, right? Especially if those of us who our families are not Muslim. So, brothers and sisters, these are some points concerning our personal struggles and journeys through Islam. And I thank you all for coming out and honoring us and seeing us and listening to us. And I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you all. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart for all your kind treatment towards myself and all of my family. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you all. May He make you a light, and may He make you a light for those around you. Ameen. There, inshallah.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much for this lecture. I really do hope that we all benefited, and I hope that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant you and Sister Karimah so many blessings for taking this journey. For taking this journey out to visit us here in Chicago. I just want to take this time, and inshallah we will be speaking about an invitation to a few different events that are coming up by Ojalá Foundation. Do we have the details?
I'm sorry?
Do we have the details for like the next Andando Viviendo?
Enough. Yeah.
Do you mind bringing So just, I just want to take a few minutes to discuss the next few events coming up for Ojalá Foundation, and then we will also be taking a Q&A right after this for the Shaykh and Sister Karimah. So if you have any questions, there's, I believe, pens and paper note card. If you have any questions, feel free to write them down, and then we will pass them off to the Shaykh and Sister Karimah so that we can get them answered in the next 15 minutes, and then we will follow everything with food that is being served. We will call each individual table, so please be patient as we plan to get everybody served, inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, my name is Raul Gonzalez. I'm part of Omar Foundation. Alhamdulillah, we have an initiative. It's called Andando Limpiando. Matter of fact, I think it was Sister Ruth and Brother Brian who came up with the name, I believe, of the Andando Limpiando initiative. Andando Limpiando is Spanish for walking and cleaning. Walking and cleaning. So what we do with the Andando Limpiando initiative is we go into various neighborhoods. We go to gang infested neighborhoods. We go to neighborhoods that have a lot of gang violence, a lot of drug and alcohol addiction are present in the neighborhood. Homes, burnt out homes, and we go to these neighborhoods as a community, and we go and we clean up. We take not just we go and clean up the garbage that's on the street, and the people they see this, they see that these Muslims, they see the sisters in the hijabs, and they see the brothers with our beards and the hufi, and we wear, our shirts and our what they say, Ojalá Foundation, and they don't see the people from their community doing this. They see the Muslims coming into their community doing this, and it makes them think. And this is what dawah is. Dawah is an invitation to think. And so we're giving these neighborhoods an invitation to think, mashallah. And so we've had 3 of them so far this year. They were all very good, alhamdulillah. And we have our next Andando Limpiando coming up in early November. I believe it's November 6th that we're planning on it. We haven't finished with the details. We're getting the aldermen involved. What we want to do is it will be held in Humble Park. Actually, in the park, we want to have some bouncy houses, and we want to make it very big because it will probably be the last one that we can do actually this year. And so, make dua for that, inshallah. And we have other initiatives. We're working with the prison outreach. We do is we write letters to the prisoners and get response, give them guidance. They're a lot of them are alone in there in the prison system. They're sitting there and they embrace the Deen of Islam, and they have no one to mentor them or to talk to them about the Deen of Islam. They're alone, and it's like the Shaykh was talking about before. So now they heard about Islam, and so they need assistance. So inshallah, we try to provide assistance to them. We have a gang initiative where we reach out to gang leaders and who are now in the Deen of Islam, and have them bring guys who are from their neighborhood, from their gang, to our events and to talk to us, so that inshallah we can give them dawah about the Deen of Islam. And so we have many things that we're doing with the Ojalá Foundation in the very near future. We hope that you are part of it. Alhamdulillah. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you so much, Brother Earl. So at this moment, I'd like to, first of all, ask each and every one of you, if you don't already follow us on Facebook, and I believe we also have a Twitter account, Ojalá Foundation. This way you don't miss any upcoming events that we plan to host in the near future, and you stay connected with our organization and what we plan over the next few months and the next year, inshallah. Are there any questions that anybody would like to specifically ask Sister Karimah or Shaykh Omar? Any questions? If you are embarrassed to ask, you can write them down, bring them up. Brother Brian?
I would have written it down, Chef, but there's no pen here. So.
Sorry.
No worries, guys. I want to know, both of you, what was your approach to memorizing the Quran? I would like to ask if my approach is okay. What was your approach, and what do you suggest? So I thought memorizing the Quran would be like in different phases. One, learning how to read, then memorizing. So that like right now I pray, but I don't know what I'm saying. But my goal is to memorize first and then learn the tafsir afterwards. Is that a good approach? What was your approach? What do you suggest?
Yeah.
For me, when I was trying to memorize, it was all about the tafsir first. I always tried to know the meaning of what I was saying, so that it made sense to me when I was putting the surah together. So for me, that was always easier, was to start with, let me read the English of what it is that I'm going to say, that I'm going to be memorizing. It was just way more easier for me if I knew the story, the meaning, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was trying to tell us when He sent down the surah. So then that made it, I was able to put it together a little bit better, and then it helped me just memorize it overall with the tafsir first. the meaning of the surah I was reading.
May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you success, akhi. May He make the Quran, may He put it in your heart, and may He make it a guide in everything that you do, my brother. I mean, there's both. There's some things that as Muslims, it's obligatory. It's wajib upon us to know, right? And what is wajib upon us to know concerning the Quran? Can anyone answer that? What's the obligation that we have concerning memorizing the Quran? The Quran, just the Quran. What surah? What surah is what?
One word. It's a one ayat. One word, one ayat.
We have to know Surah
Al-Fatiha.
Fatiha.
Oh, mashallah.
Right? It's obligatory upon all of us to know Fatiha. And from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy, that is the only surah that is obligatory upon the Muslims to memorize. Now, did they stop there? Of course not. Prophet Muhammad gave us a lot of encouragement in learning the Quran. So the first thing we want to teach or know ourselves is Surah Al-Fatiha. And then on top of that, there's a lot of, not even surahs, there's ayat that Prophet Muhammad encouraged us to learn, right? Like, for example, Ayatul Kursi. If you read Ayatul Kursi, the 255, the 255th verse of the Quran, if you recite that verse after every prayer, there's nothing preventing you from going to paradise except what? Death. That's the only thing, right? So we should try to learn Ayatul Kursi. The Prophet would recite that surah, that ayah after every salah. And he would recite it at night. He said, if you recite Ayatul Kursi at night, you're protected until the morning from shaitan, right? And we know how important sleep is. As we get older, we see the challenge of sleeping, right? The sickness that can result from a lack of sleep, right? So the Prophet encouraged us to learn Surah Fatiha, Ayatul Kursi, and also on a daily basis, he would recite what other surahs? Besides Ayatul Kursi, what other surahs would he recite every single day?
The three ones.
The three Quls. He would recite these every single morning and every single evening. 3 times each. 3 times. This is the messenger of Allah, right? So these are the things we should start there, right? Start with Fatiha, of course. Start with Ayatul Kursi and the 3 Quls. And then, as you mentioned, brother, and as Sister Karimah mentioned, we want to understand. Unfortunately, right, the zeal and the eagerness to learn the Quran from particularly our Turkish brothers during the Uthmani period, that this concept of memorizing the Quran without understanding it became very popular, right? So you have literally hundreds and hundreds of people, maybe thousands, maybe millions, who have memorized the Quran, have no idea what they've memorized. Right? So I've never been a proponent of simply memorizing the Quran. I've never been a part of an institution that simply focuses in on memorizing the Quran. There has to be, along with the Quran, Arabic. Arabic. You have to study Arabic. Right? You have to. As a Muslim, some scholars say it's wajib, because whatever is obligatory for you whatever is a means for you to understand your religion is obligatory upon you, right? So Arabic is a means for you to understand your deen, right? So Ibn Taymiyyah, rahmatullahi alayhi, he said it's wajib upon the Muslim to know Arabic, right? He said it's wajib upon the Muslim to know Arabic, right? So along with your studies in the Quran, and she memorized most of the Quran in Medina. She was fluent in Arabic by the time she was 7, 8 years old. right? So, alhamdulillah, what I'm saying, and myself too, right? And we used to memorize, we used to compete with one another, right? To memorize. I remember my friend saying, oh, I memorized this surah. Oh man, he remember, I gotta memorize that too, right? So we used to compete with one another to do this type of thing. So brother, your methodology is good, you know. Make sure you know Fatiha. Start with Ayatul, then after that Ayatul Kursi, the three chords, and then work your way from the back, right? And at the same time, make some time for Arabic, right? Understanding Arabic. In the tafsir, you know, you can pick maybe, you know, once a week, right, where you're going through different tafsir, right? And what we have to remember is that this is some Sahaba, one Sahabi, if I'm not mistaken, it was Aisha radiallahu anha. She read a surah during Salat, and then after she finished praying, she remembered the ayah, it's escaping my mind, and she recited that ayah to herself over and over and over and over again until Fajr time. The same ayah, right? Why? She was contemplating, thinking, pondering over the meaning, right? So the tafsir, you know, even in English, right? You can read a tafsir book in English once a week, twice a week, whatever, right? You have your obligations to balance that in there. So, that's and that's the approach that I took. Trying memorizing the shorter surahs, and then eventually getting involved in Arabic and trying to learn Arabic. That's also very important. So, yes,
Yeah.
Okay, the question says, how did you come to Islam? What was your biggest struggle? I was young. So, struggle was my middle name. And that's what young people, when you're young, you struggle, right? You broke, you don't know nothing, you're young. So I didn't, and another note, I never looked at Islam as something that wasn't from America. I didn't see Islam as it being something from somewhere else, right? Where I was from, like I said, there was an urban movement. You guys might the 5%ers, these guys, right? They were in the hood. They were me, But I wasn't African American, so I couldn't attribute myself to that, right? But so I will say my biggest struggle, and I remember telling my friends I became Muslim, and the first when I told one of my, I don't know how they found out, but some of them found out, and I get to the bus stop, and one of them just comes down. He's like, "Salam alaikum, Mom." I'm like, oh, you Muslim? Like, yo, he was happy, right? So there was some, and then some friends, right? They weren't too happy. Some of them became Muslim. The struggle was just now starting to apply those things, right? One of the major changes in our home as a family was what the Prophet ﷺ said: give salams. That was new for us. We would come home, buenas tardes, right? Or maybe not even that. To now we coming home and salam alaikum, right? And now my mother has to respond. My brother has to respond. My sister, they have to respond. So just now, it's difficult, it's challenging. Right? I imagine for some of you sisters, the hijab, I know that's a challenge, right? So, just now becoming a Muslim, right? And now actually becoming a Muslim at work, at school, becoming a Muslim in your everyday life, right? That's a challenge to this day, right? It's connecting with Allah, right? It's it's like the Wi-Fi, right? I know it sounds corny, right? But it's a constant thing that we constantly have to stay connected to Allah. There's never a moment, right? Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that. He said that. What was I saying? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, oh, man, I lost my train of thought. Sorry.
Staying connected.
Staying connected. Oh man. I forgot what I was going to say.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. And I was mentioning to last night that the Prophet ﷺ himself, he would say the Shahada. How many times a day would he say the Shahada to himself? Anyone want to guess? Who says 50?
At least.
At least 100.
At least.
150. 200.
Yes.
About 200 times a day. Through different moments of the day that he would repeat the Shahada. Right? So it's a constant reminder, right? You know, constant. You just finished praying at home, mashallah, you're feeling good, you make dhikr, here comes your husband. Right? It mess up your whole day. Right? So subhanAllah, right? We have to constantly stay connected. It's always, this is the path, right? And what's the reward? What are we seeking? Right? We're seeking Jannah. And Allah knows how to put a price, right? On the goods. For those of you who are the only Muslim in your family, you have to preserve your deen. If your family is giving you a hard time, maybe it's from concern, right? That, what they see on TV, right? I mean, we have people that are born Muslims that really don't like being born Muslims, right? They're kind of ashamed in a sense right now. I had a Pakistani young man tell me, he said, "Do I look like a Mexican? Can I pass for a Mexican?" I'm looking at him like, what? Like, why you want? It's not. I mean, I love my Mexican people. I'm just saying, like, why you want to be Mexican? Like, what? You know what I mean? That's when I first came back. So, maybe your family, they're concerned about you, right? Your well-being. You're gonna start covering now. You're gonna start praying now. You're gonna have a beard, look like right? So, and hopefully it's coming from concern. But you have to, you know the situation best, so you practice Islam as best as you can. If they're giving you a hard time about Salat, say, "Mom, Dad, whoever, I have to pray. This is part of my religion," right? And just tell them like that, and then try to pray when they're not around. Try to pray, they won't see you, right? And remember that they need guidance too, right? You want them to find what you found, right? So at some point you want to share with them what you have. And it's difficult for me to speak on that because me and my brother, we took Shahada the same night, right? So I always, alhamdulillah, so it's very difficult for me to speak about what I'm not familiar with. So, hang in there, do what you can. If it's an issue, don't go back and forth with them. Don't fight with them. Be patient with them. Be kind towards them. Show them, right? This is where the challenge is. We all can come out in public, right, with my beard. But what did Aisha say about Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? Right, the Sahaba came. We know how he is in public, but what did they want to know from Aisha? How is he in the house? I could come out here and be nice to my brothers, but how does he treat you? How does he treat the home? And what was the first thing that the Prophet ﷺ used to do when he came back home from being out? Besides say the dua and give salams. After that, what was the first thing that he would do? Brush his teeth. Why? He's about to talk to his wife, to his family. He wants to be in the best of presence with his wife, with the people that are closest to him. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has chosen you, brother or sister, to embrace Islam, and He has put this responsibility upon you. So take it in stride and be patient and make a lot of dua and try to stick with your brothers and sisters, inshallah, as best as you can. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help you and give you the strength and patience and the iman to deal with your non-Muslim relatives. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide them and to guide all of our loved ones to Islam. Ameen.
This question says, what advice would you give to a new revert who feels stuck in their education of Islam? I think it was like my father said a little earlier, I'm not able to directly identify with the struggles of just become, alhamdulillah, I was born Muslim. But for me, it's always going back to the basics of, just memorizing Fatiha, just memorizing those 7 ayahs, dedicating time, to just the basics that you need to know as a Muslim. You don't have, it shouldn't be overwhelming at first. You take it one step at a time. And then, just you coming out tonight, that was like a huge step in trying to, educate yourself more when it comes to Islam. Right, that might be something I could answer a little bit.
Again, right, when it comes to Islam, it's a matter of when we're learning Islam, it can be divided into three basic categories, right? There's those things that itiqad, right? Those things that we have to know in our heart, right? We have to know them and we have to accept them with our heart, our beliefs, right? And then also what we have to consider is our environment, right? So the first thing that's obligatory upon you in terms of your beliefs, right? That's where you start. You have to know Allah. You have to know who Prophet Muhammad is, right? We have to know now we've been guided to Islam. We had questions about who God is, and now He's guided us to Islam. And in Islam, you can find out who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is without any mystery, without any doubt. Alhamdulillah. Right? So that's the first thing. Learn Allah, learn about, study the biography, right? Study the biography of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu. He is our example. He is our messenger. So we start with those things in terms of our beliefs. And then there's also what is called the a tark, things that we have to leave off. Right, so we have to learn about things within the prevalent society within the society that are prevalent, right? That are maybe not things that we should be doing. So we have to know about those things, right? It's not just enough to say you don't eat pork, right? You might have to explain to somebody, well, this is why I don't eat pork. This is why I don't do this. This is why I don't do that. And then the other thing that we have to do are the deeds, right? The af'al. Right, and with af'al, the first and basically the only thing that a Muslim has to do every day is what? Pray. You have to make your 5 prayers, right? So you have to know how to make your 5 prayers.